And it's finally here, the Osmo Pocket 4. If it feels like we've been waiting an eternity for this thing to be released, that's because we have. This thing was rumored to come out originally at the end of last year. And here we are almost in the middle of 2026. But I've got one in hand, so let's see if it's been worth the wait. So what's different between this and the Osmo Pocket 3? Well, the first thing you're going to notice is the Osmo Pocket 4 has these two buttons right here beneath the screen. Now, the first one of those is a manual zoom button. You press a button and zoom directly into 2x zoom. And if you press it again, double tap, in fact, you can go to 4x zoom, which is actually double what this thing was capable of. The second difference in terms of the hardware, and this is a really cool one in my opinion, is that this one has over 100 gigs of built-in storage. There is still an SD card slot, and over 100 gigs is actually plenty. For me, in my experience, when I go out filming, easily 2 days, 3 days of recording, I'm not going to fill it up. And it's a bit of a trend with DJI and its products. It's been adding onboard storage to its action cameras and drones for a while now. In fact, I think the Neo 2 drone only has onboard storage, so we're off to a really good start with that. As for video modes, well, there's a new sensor in here. It's still a 4K 1-inch sensor, so there's no more Ks. So the top resolution is still the same, or 3K in vertical mode, but they've increased the maximum frame rate up to 240 frames per second. This one topped out at 120. You can also adjust the shutter speeds a lot more on this. This one goes right down to, I think, 1/4, 1/5, something like this. We'll talk about it later on. And that means you can do some really interesting visual effects, really good for light trails and that kind of thing. And they're talking up a lot of its photography skills, so still images too. The Osmo Pocket 4 also introduces film tones, which is a bit like film simulation that you see on Fuji's cameras, that kind of thing. So there's a bunch of different film types or virtual film types, so you can change the mood and look of your video right here on the camera without having to do anything in post-production. The good news is that the Osmo Pocket 4 is still a great camera, and it fills that gap between your phone and something more heavyweight like a mirrorless camera perfectly. The image can still be a little over sharp sometimes, a little bit more like an action camera, but you can easily fix that in settings. And like DJI promised, the dynamic range has really improved this time around. The Osmo Pocket 3 was already pretty good in low light for a camera with this size sensor, and the Osmo Pocket 4 just builds on that. Even when using that new zoom feature at night, the image remains impressively sharp without significant loss in detail. And then there are those extended shutter speeds. You can really slow things down this time around and get some interesting effects. I'm going to say it's not something that I'm going to be using every day, but it's nice to know that the feature is there. And it's exactly the same with that 8x slow-mo. Another thing in the toolbox, what's not to like? And filming in the dark must be a much requested feature because you can now add a modular fill light to the Osmo Pocket 4, and it's included in the Creator combo. It attaches magnetically and it turns on as soon as you connect it. It's pretty convenient, and you can even adjust the temperature of the light and the brightness directly on the camera itself. Now, for those of us that like to film in daylight, there is another addition to the creative toolbox, and that is those film tones. The ones that I said were a bit like virtual film stock. There are 6 in total on the camera at launch, and they're easy to find in the menus. Now, some of them are subtle and others not so much. Again, it's not something I think I'd use all the time, but if you want to add a unique look and feel to your video without getting into color grading, at least now you have some on-camera options. Another cool feature that they've added is that, like before, there's support for DJI microphones. You don't need a receiver, so that makes it extra convenient. Before, you could record the audio on 2 microphones and the audio from the camera itself. But what the Osmo Pocket 3 would do was spit that out as a separate file on the memory card. And then if you wanted to use that in your video, you had to open it up in your video editor, add it onto your timeline, sync it up, and then get things get things synchronized that way. So I'm just joining traffic. But now there's an option where you can have it bake that audio into a 4-channel audio file that your video editor, DaVinci, Adobe Premiere will read, and then you can just have mix between microphone audio and ambient audio. Like, I'm just going to overtake these people. Let's get a little bit of wind noise. And then if you want to, you can switch to the audio from the camera seamlessly. You don't need to manually transfer that file over and sync it up or anything like this. It's all just done for you. So again, another friction point just evaporates. Then there's those 2 hardware buttons. Now it might seem like such a simple thing, but having a hardware zoom button is something I didn't realize I needed until now. Because on the Osmo Pocket 3, you could zoom in using the joystick, and you get a sort of gradual zoom, and it was fine. But sometimes you don't want the gradual zoom, you just want to punch in, right? And now you can. So you just push the button, and it zooms in, 2 times zoom. And now there's even 4 times zoom. So you had a maximum 2x zoom on the Osmo Pocket 3. This has gone up to 4x zoom. But as well, there's one customizable button. So by default, I think it's or quick shot mode, which seems to be like it just take a quick photo. That can be useful, but you can assign it to a whole bunch of other things as well. So this camera is now kind of customizable. All right, just come up to this main road. So let's change a few settings and do a little bit more testing. All right, let's talk about gesture control, which is a common feature on a lot of DJI's drones. It was not a feature on the Osmo Pocket 3, but it is now a feature on the Osmo Pocket 4, which means that if I raise my hand like this, yep, I can see that it's already enabled, active track enabled on the Osmo Pocket 4, which now means obviously if I want to do a walking talking video and I want to show you this bridge or something over here, then the Osmo Pocket 4 is going to follow me and the Osmo Pocket 3 is going to do absolutely nothing. Now for self-shooting, this can be really, really handy, although I will say that the activation of it is a little bit hit and miss. So sometimes you raise your hand expecting it to activate and it doesn't. You're just there stood with your hand up like this and it's doing absolutely nothing. So I can see actually in this case it did disable it, so we had some success there. Obviously you could activate active track while you were near the camera, but this is just a little bit more convenient. But yeah, it's a pretty cool feature. Certainly if you want to have the camera tracking you, you can also stop and start recording like this. And I can see that the Osmo Pocket 4 has already stopped recording and the Osmo Pocket 3 has not. I think this is working. I've got active track enabled and I'm going to ride it on the bike. So yeah, the DJI Osmo Pocket 3, incredibly popular camera. It's kind of in every must-have vlogger kit list. So that makes it a pretty tough act to follow. And the Osmo Pocket 4 so far seems to build on that success. So it's certainly almost identical in terms of form factor, so it's just as portable. And this thing is so small, you can really set it down anywhere and get some really interesting shots and get really cool B-roll. It has all the key features that you would expect, obviously from the Osmo Pocket 3, and it adds to that with Sorry Pigeon. It's got a built-in storage, which I think is fantastic. I'm always forgetting my memory cards. But like the weather, not every change is for the positive. Now we've had a couple of things of our wish list granted. Most people would always want better low light performance, and now we have it. And we have a more functional zoom feature, but it's not optical zoom. It's still a digital zoom. Now there are a lot of rumors that DJI is going to release a pro version of the Osmo Pocket 4 later in the year, and it's a pretty good bet that that's the one, if any, is going to have the optical zoom. And then there's small details like in vertical mode, when you flip the screen, you can't access those zoom buttons. It does work with the screen in landscape, but you have to change that in settings to set the camera to portrait mode, and then you can still access the buttons. So, yep, small detail, but just a minor little gripe. And then there's vertical mode in general. We're still getting that 3K crop from the main sensor, as if DJI is taking vertical mode in social media as sort of a secondary afterthought. Now, I know a lot of people wanted to see the gimbal to be able to switch into a vertical position, and that way you're getting a full sensor in a true vertical mode. That didn't happen this time around. I'm sure there are mechanical reasons for it or whatnot. Ooh, and this one is maybe a little bit specific, but it's something I noticed almost straight away. So now on the Osmo Pocket 3, you had this little lip, this little ridge here on the screen. So when you wanted to flip it, you could kind of feel for that ridge flip it and away you go. Now that isn't present on the Osmo Pocket 4. I keep feeling for it with my thumb and never finding it. The screen still flips perfectly, don't get me wrong. And I don't know why, I really miss it. I still feel like the Osmo Pocket struggles with some exposures. Like you can see right here over my shoulder that the clouds and the sky is slightly blown out. And that's even with me trying to sort of increase the shutter speed, lower the ISO, everything to get it to look a little bit more natural, but it still comes out really blown out. Now there is that new D-Log mode, so you can do a lot of color correction, and I know that there's a lot of data that will allow you to sort of maintain those highlights and bring up the shadows and stuff like this. But this is all stuff you have to do in post-production, and this camera to me is all about getting good results almost instantly straight out of the camera. And although this camera has a gimbal and it does give really smooth footage, the famous ninja walk is still necessary. But then there are other small details which counterbalance this and make me love the camera again, which is the bigger battery. So we've got more battery. Obviously, it depends on how you film, but it is noticeable. It still has that ridiculously fast charging. The low light performance is better and the colors look more natural. I think everything looks like 5 to 10% better. And now my coffee's cold. So that begs the obvious big question, is the Pocket 4 worth it over the already great Pocket 3? Well, at launch, the price of this, the most affordable version, is going to be £430, which is about 480 euros. Remember, DJI is having little complications selling its products directly in the US at the moment, so it's only giving euro and pound sterling prices. And the cheapest version of the Pocket 3 is £390. So the difference isn't that huge. Now, if you want the Creator Combo, that's the one that comes with all those extra accessories like the tripod, the Mic 3 transmitter, and that new magnetic light, then that's going to cost you £550. And the same package with the Pocket 3, but it comes with the DJI Mic 2 and obviously not with that light, is £500. So to me, it basically boils down to this. If you want something that's going to be your primary vlogging camera, if you're just starting out on YouTube, or you just want one camera that does it all, then get the Pocket 4. It's a fantastic camera. It shoots really great video. It's got loads of flexibility and features. It's really portable, kind of does everything. This is the one to buy. But if you've already got a camera you like and you're looking for something extra or maybe something to do vlogs and social media with occasionally, then the Pocket 3 really is still a good option. Still shoots in 4K and still shoots in all the main frame rates. It's still just as versatile and portable as this one in all the ways that matter. And although the difference is only £40, so about $60 at the moment, you can guarantee this one's only going to get cheaper. Now, if you found this video useful, please do consider giving it a like and subscribing. And if you're into really interesting vlogging cameras, why not check out this video here about the DJI Osmo Nano. But for now, as always, the important thing is to get out there and go create.